This is the AI-assisted organization podcast hosted by myself, Piers and my co-host and co-founder of Implement AI, Dr. Aalok Shukla, who's at home in Lisbon and I'm still up north for Christmas. We've had quite a big year. We've got some sort of big news. We'll get a press release out, I think, maybe before Christmas, hopefully. But in the last pod, we started talking really about next year, what you should be thinking, and what companies and clients are saying to us. We're going to go through our thoughts on that, but most importantly, we're going to go back to this time last year and talk about our predictions 2024. Now, it was a very different world then in terms of AI, its capabilities, where we thought it was going, direction of travel, what was in the news. So we're going to go and see how we did, and it's a mixed bag. But we won some, you lose some, but we did okay, I think. And then we're going to actually share about 8 predictions for 2025, and this is I think this is episode number 54 of this podcast. I know we keep saying we're going to sort of scale this podcast up, but there's just so many things to do, and this is one of them. So I think next year we're going to maybe move the hosting and talk to a partner to help us scale it. So if you're interested in a partner in the podcast, or maybe coming on the podcast, got something interesting to talk about in the AI space and AI for business, or some news, or AI agents, or agentic workflows, all that kind of good stuff, let us know. Reach out to us, and maybe next year we'll start to have some guests if we can get ourselves organized and sort of record this in an orderly fashion. So let's talk about 2025. So last pod we touched on this is really about, there's some research during the year that McKinsey wrote, which is quite good, about AI leaders and AI laggards. Now, quite big enterprises measuring total shareholder returns, all quite technical, but it's kind of moving down the food chain into sort of large SMEs and smaller businesses. And this is the key to it, is that, I don't know what you think, Aalok, but this year to me was one of wait and see, where's it going, what can it do, what are its capabilities. I haven't got a budget this year, I've got nobody focused on this year. But 2025, what we're hearing is people have set aside some resource, some time, some money to start looking at this properly.
So there's two dimensions, Tale of Two Cities, isn't it? Right. There was one crew that already started doing some pilots this year, and then now they're kind of scaling that up more. And then there's the other group which was I'm gonna leave this on the back burner. I'm gonna do business as usual for now. But the thing is, AI has been creeping up, and now it's been banging on the door. And whether it's internal challenges from the way team members want to work, or manage their work using AI when you hadn't decided how that was going to be, or it's going to be your budget's got to be redone for next year, and now your payroll has gone up because of increased taxes and things, and you need to look at how can technology make things more efficient. So it's gone from a nice to have and I'd like to have to I need to look at this now, basically, right? And definitely it's going to be some big opportunities next year.
It's a good point you make there, because I've been on the news and LBC and all sorts of news channels talking about the UK budget and the impact, just generally, actually, inflation, business confidence, the impacts on the cost of labour. And I keep saying that, I think in an exponential world, planning using a linear path and extrapolate it into the future is a bad plan. I think policymakers and some companies are still doing that, and the world is going to change. We don't quite know at what pace, or what speed, or when, or how, but we know how, but not quite at what pace. But you are starting to see that change. And AI, the point I'm making is that increasingly there is going to be an alternative to the human workforce, which is artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I think there's two things. You say you don't know what pace. It's fast in the pace.
It's fast. Yeah. Okay, let me rephrase that. We don't know. It's fast, we just don't know how fast.
Well, it's I don't know. It's like countdown, that clock, except it keeps getting faster and faster and faster, basically, right? So that's the way I would look at it. Is that ain't gonna slow down, right? The rate of new developments, new opportunities, new threats, that's going to be passing out very quickly. So I think the key thing is you have to understand that you're in a game of musical chairs now, and everything is moving, right? So the music has started, and you've got to decide, and actually take some action to be in the game.
Go on. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. So the other thing to think about is that the skill of trying to forecast or plan your digital transformation years out, or we're going to do this, we're going to do that, that's gone now, because in those situations you basically had a new technology which was basically going to be the same, and you were just going to forecast how you were going to basically, your team were going to be the same, you're just forecasting different transitions and migrations. We're not in that world now, and the problem is that it requires a completely different approach and skill set which most businesses don't have. This basically requires you to have multiple pilots, multiple projects, and then see what wins and then double down on that, basically. And this is not a skill that most businesses have. But unfortunately, this is the skill you need to have in this world where you've got to see what's going to work and you have to be open to experiment. And I think many businesses don't have that capability, and they should look at how they could actually incorporate that or partner with people for that.
Yeah, change was kind of about, technology, people, processes, and actually what you're seeing, it almost collapse into one. And like you say, having these long projects that are all usually doomed to failure. And by the time you finish one, it's time to actually
Well,
transform again. It's like the fourth bridge.
Well, like Apple, they've now shelved their one iPhone subscription. They were for years they were working on a subscription where you would just subscribe and you get a new iPhone all the time. But they can see now, with new technology shifting on and different operating systems. I don't know whether you saw like there's a new operating system. I think it's for Huawei in China, where it's all sort of smart things you can do with transmitting, from photos from one phone to another phone. They've ditched Android. So the thing is, you can't predict these new things, but you can predict there will be new breakthroughs. So if you know there's going to be new breakthroughs, you've got to position yourself in ability to be able to benefit from those breakthroughs. And I think that's what it's about becoming an AI-enabled or AI-assisted company, is to have more opportunities where you can leverage it, basically, right?
Yeah, and I think that a year ago everyone was saying, well, AI does this, but it doesn't do that. And people still do say that. But what it does do now is completely different, and it's moved on massively. So we often talk about our sort of 2x2 matrix. So we're looking at, technology, the frontier and the ROI capability. And we're kind of usually playing with our customers in the bottom left box. So it works. So there's more technology or AI-driven technology now that works. And that means you can now use it reliably to generate a measurable, tangible return on investment. So that's where we're sort of playing. I think you're seeing more of that now.
Yeah, no, there's loads of it, and what I love is that there's very specific opportunities. But if you find them right, you can just scale them up, in a great way. Basically, you want to basically, we've talked about this in the past. You want to figure out one of three opportunities that we kind of like talked about in like a couple of episodes ago. If you didn't listen to that one, do listen to that one about the three kind of main opportunity areas of like.
Oh, that was the last one, 53. If you didn't listen to it.
Yeah, 53 exactly. Where just high level so people understand. One is like no skilling a workflow, so de-skilling a workflow where it would be easier for people to do it, so you can have like new people which would be up to speed much faster, and there requires less expensive people for that. Or no skilling a workflow where the agent would do it directly, there's no person. Or advantage, which is something, product or service driven by AI, which no one else can do. Now, one of those three boxes in your business, if you find that opportunity area and you scale that up, we've already seen with some businesses where there's like a £3-4 million opportunity, and they're working actually with deploying the pilot opportunities within those areas, and they're very specific, and you have to be in it and experimenting to discover those, basically.
So we've got a lot more case studies now. So we've got a lot going on. So we're going to be sort of publishing some case studies. We're developing our AI agent platform, like an agentic platform, which is going to be launching at the end of Q1. So we've got AI agents now. We deploy them. Our clients are using them. We're kind of bringing it all together so they can be managed more easily, build more easily, and be sort of
with new agents
easier to deploy. And we'll keep adding agents. So what we learn, what we do by interacting with our clients of all sizes is, what are the problems they want solving, and what are the agents you want to use? So the agents are particularly, think of it as a capability, a skill, like a person. And then what you do is deploy that person, that capability and those skills in a particular role inside businesses. So that's our managed agent model. So we're going to be scaling it up during 2025. Another thing that's frustrating me, actually, which doesn't really fit into what we've been talking about, what we're going to go on to predictions, is that you hear all this AI, Sora is a great example, isn't it? The OpenAI, text to video model. You want to use it and you can't.
Apple Intelligence, or Ray-Ban's Meta glasses with the AI.
Yeah, got those as well. It's just quite frustrating that I think it's
EU
partly,
says no.
but partly we get bundled with the EU. We're not in the EU anymore, but EU regulations are a bit nervous of it in terms of those different criteria and the AI risk and how it needs to be, how they need to respond to it.
It's the bottom line is they create uncertainty, and they're also throwing around these billion-dollar fines or multi-billion-dollar fines, right? So it's obvious, isn't it? The thing is, you actually can become a digital underclass, because if you don't have access to the capabilities and the compounding from it, you go backwards. It's very.
So we've got any UK policymakers listening to our podcast, which they should be. You need to look at the EU Act, work out where they got it wrong, fix it, and put it into legislation very, very quickly. It's a huge national competitive advantage being able to use and embrace this technology in a sensible way.
imagine like you're trying to do your best work, because the world is a competition, right? You know, you've got people doing exams, for example, and some people you say, here's a calculator and you can do everything you want and here's access to the internet. The other one's like, no, you just memorize everything. You don't get access to the internet. You don't get access to the calculator. It's not fair competition, basically, is it? You know, so.
Another one, here's ChatGPT. Oh wait, don't get me going, because they'll turn into one of my news interviews. So let's move on to let's turn on to predictions. So in 2024, again, you got to remember it was quite early. We started this business, so it was sort of summer 2023, and you know we've 18 months in. So 2024 was quite early. So we had 10 predictions. We're going to rattle through these. I've kind of scored us a lot in terms of how I think we did. So the first one was Gen AI will not suffer from a trough of disillusionment and it will go mainstream. Now, you can argue about the mainstream, that may touch on some other points, but I do think we were right. I'll give it a 7 out of 10.
I'll go more than that. It's like the news are everywhere, basically, right? So it is mainstream. Everyone talks about artificial intelligence now. Like
everyone talks about ChatGPT or Copilot. I'm not sure everyone knows what.
Still AI. That's still AI to people.
Yeah. Okay. We can. If it's okay, to use a broad definition of people, are they aware of AI? I'll give us a 9 out of 10. Brilliant. Yeah. Right. Personal AI adoption. So this is you personally, not in the business, you personally using this technology to augment yourself. Now, I do quite a few keynotes, and I always ask the room, who in the room, put your hand up, is using AI personally? And I'd say on average, it's 5%. If it's lawyers, it's 1%. So I'm always quite disappointed, actually. So I think that I'll give us a 4 out of 10, which is not a bad thing. We were right. People should be using this. I just don't think they are yet. They don't see the value.
I think you're right in like the kind of like major, like if you're talking about like mainstream, basically, right? You know, like in that kind of stuff. But I mean, obviously, all the people that we interact with and the people we see, like they're most people are power users, basically, and the amount of things that people use AI for has increased. So I think there's two. There's the power user group, which has increased, and they are using it in that group. For example, I've seen people uploading their blood test results to Claude and different things like this, and discovering different insights. But then you're absolutely right. Like it's still, you know, people are aware of ChatGPT, but they're not really understanding all the things.
If you're not using AI, whether it's Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, personally, for almost every cognitive task you do, including looking at your particular blood tests as well, in 2024, that should be one of your New Year's resolutions. Big one I expected, which is one of mine, was a big cyber threat. So we've seen some threats, we've seen some AI used, we've seen they've been using phishing attacks that are more sort of creative and cleverer, more personalized. We haven't really seen this sort of massive inflow. Maybe they're under the radar of sort of large-scale cyber attacks. So I think maybe that's coming, or maybe the cyber security, you know, arms race is we're kind of staying ahead of the bad actors. But so I've given us we only got a 3 out of 10 on that one, which I think is a great result for the world at large.
I think there's more things like where maybe there aren't any massive ones which have been laid out, but there have been a lot more of fragmented phishing attempts and those kind of things. Basically, the sophistication of those things has increased, but because they're always to individuals, you probably won't be aware of that on a bigger scale. So I thought
it was going to be like a big one, like some massive bank has lost billions, which has happened, well, millions. So we'll see if that happens in 2025. Now, businesses using AI will outperform. So this is naturally the case, although I don't know what you think, Aalok. Our clients, for example, maybe using it in 1 or 2 or 3, in some cases 4 workflows in different ways, but they haven't built an AI OS, as we call it, which is building a business that's AI driven on top of this, so they can really outperform. Now, the numbers show the McKinsey research that there are the AI leaders, 6x shareholder returns using AI, but again, big companies are quite sort of a finance based. So I don't think that's quite happening yet, but if you use AI, you will outperform.
I think like you're right. Like I think the key thing is like obviously within a year, there's only a specific number of workflows and opportunity zones within a business that you can implement it within. And obviously with a business of any size, it takes more than a few workflows to have an impact. However, we've seen that like quite winning opportunities and workflows develop within some of those different areas. And, you know, like, for example, Klarna is a good example, like that they've been doing different announcements and, you know, they turn their profitability around and they've got many exciting, you know, opportunities on the horizon from there. So there are a few starting to break out, but I mean, I agree with you. We'll see more of years.
Yeah, I gave us a 5 out of 10 for that, but Klarna is a very good example. So AI agents are joining the team. So this is kind of what we do. This is our objective. It's why we get out of bed every day. I gave us a 5 out of 10 because I think they are joining the teams, but not in every company. I think in 2025, again, people have been sort of looking at it, waiting to see. I think in 2025, this is going to be the breakout year where people start to really embrace this technology and deploying AIs in teams, either agentic, AIs working together, or to augment humans.
Yeah, I think it's like, how can I put it? It's a bit like many business owners hear about it, they understand it, they hear it intellectually, but deep down they believe that won't work in my business, basically, right? Like, and I've seen, like, for example, in different scenarios where, for example, some industries they say, yeah, these people we're working with are not technology at all. This is like, Jonathan from, like from like I'm not gonna say anything, but like from wherever area, like it's like not sophisticated and just very straightforward. Now the thing is, we've actually proven in pilots, and they've been very surprised at how well the AI performs in those situations. So it doesn't matter what sector, what organization, what different area. I think now this year I've seen more and more business owners' mindsets start to shift, and that's what takes happen first, basically, because everything follows the leadership. So it had to be like leaders actually understanding, like where they're actually getting everything from. And if they understand it could work in my business, like I had a business yesterday I was talking to in basically domestic construction. And, he was really inquiring as a serious alternative to hiring some more people. And I found that fantastic, that like basically completely non-tech business is now looking at this as an alternative to a part-time person. And I think that's fantastic.
I mean, what you're just saying there is what's quite interesting. You talk to some of our clients, or people going through pilots or programs, AI Activate, and it's almost like cognitive dissonance, isn't it? They were kind of, I need to do this and have a look at this because I've either been told to, or just think I think it could be interesting if it works, but I don't really expect it to. And it just blows the lights out in terms of the return of what they're expecting. And it's like cognitive dissonance. They almost need to go away and sort of, have a cold towel and come back and say, right, well, I was quite surprised actually. What do we do next? It's fascinating.
Exactly.
LLM M&A. So seeing lots of these big large language model providers sort of all merged together, that's probably not going to happen because of competition rules these days, and they're all quite big now. So that might be quite difficult. What you have seen, though, I'd say, is some of the even ones that have raised hundreds of millions, like Inflection AI, for example, that was disappeared, and they were kind of absorbed by Microsoft, like more like an acqui-hire. So it's not M&A. I think they made all the investors right and then took the team. So Mustafa Suleyman, one of the founders of what is now Google DeepMind, is now head of Microsoft sort of AI, their version of Google DeepMind, I guess. So you don't see a lot of M&A. I think you will, though. We're not really on the list for 2025, but you might start seeing that companies like ours actually start to merge together. But it can be quite complicated in terms of the technology platform. So I gave us a 4 out of 10 for that one. AI voice, I think we scored highly here. So we were big proponents of AI voice. We thought AI voice was a powerful tool, and I've given us a 7. It could be an 8, probably a 7 or 8 out of 10 here, because we see the AI voice as being a real game changer, actually, because it does have real, not always obvious, but real sort of tangible, measurable use cases.
It's the cleanest thing in most businesses, where like if you had this person sitting here and calling these people to react these customers, or to recommend something different, or to upsell them, or to find out the people about different details. If you got like that, and then you can apply an AI on top of it, that works fantastically. I mean, we had a call campaign this morning, and it was, called 1,000 people, and no one knew it was an AI, basically, right? It's amazing.
Yeah, we've got people that are paying people to make 80 to 100 phone calls a day. And our AIs are doing, 550 in several hours, basically. And, and they're getting more, they're extracting more information. So it's really, a voice is really about not just using voice, but understanding recorded phone calls, actually extracting data from it. So voice is big. I say it's one of our centers of excellence, and that's going to continue to be big into 2025. Local AIs, this is small models, like small LLMs that can be run locally on devices. So this will come. You will have an LLM in your fridge at some point, but we haven't really seen a lot of that. I'd say maybe Apple Intelligence, but that's still using a cloud-based LLM, isn't it? And to be fair, it's not particularly great.
It's the EU thing again, basically.
Yeah, and the EU thing as well. So we've got a 3 out of 10 because it hasn't really happened yet, but it is definitely coming. I think what you are seeing, Aalok, actually, we should mention, is you're seeing it in your favorite form factor, which is glasses. So you are going to start to see it in these sort of glasses you're seeing now, which is sort of you're seeing more of them hit the market. AI in operating systems. I mean, the only one there really is, I guess, is the Microsoft, I guess, the Microsoft AI PCs, Apple Intelligence. So you're not seeing a lot of that yet, but it is coming, and we'll talk about computer use a bit later. Yeah, and then we've seen, the first winners are starting to emerge in non-tech sectors. This is kind of linked to the small businesses adopting it.
Yeah, roll-ups and stuff like this. So I've spoken with some different investors that like actually just reached out independently because they're exploring roll-ups in a particular space, and they also articulate to me directly, yeah, their thesis is by having a AI first business in this sector, we could do this, we could do that. So I think now it takes time. I think like we were a bit keen on like the mark. Like I think the planning for those kind of like opportunities is happening right now, and it was happening this year. And I think next year a lot of triggers going to be pulled on like, okay, this is going to be an AI enabled roll up strategy and stuff like that, basically. So, yeah.
Yeah. So if you can implement AI in a roll up and you can create more value, you can pay more or extract more value from those target businesses. So overall, we kind of did reasonably well. I think the big ones were no profit delusionment. The one disappointing is people aren't using it personally. Businesses of AI are starting to outperform and use AI agents. Voice has been big, I think, and the winners are starting to emerge. So not too bad. Right, let's say a bit about what we do. So implement AI. It's been a big year for us as well. 2025 is going to be huge. It will be foundational. So we've kind of got our ducks in a row. We know what we're doing. We know how we want to do it. It's now a question of doing it. So we're going to be scaling for 2025. Developing our managed AI agent sort of approach to the market. We've got programs. So if you're looking at this, a lot of our clients are non-tech companies. You look at this technology thinking, what do we do? How do I start? My team doesn't understand it. My board is scared of it. We have programs we can take you through that go through policy, governance, training, senior leadership, look at your business, analyze its workflows, pick a workflow where there's a real ROI or an automation. And we use AI to automate that. And hopefully then it means your business can adopt it confidently. And we move on to deploy more of our AI agents and then give you access to our AI agent platform. So that's what we do. We have a newsletter every week. We kind of follows a podcast. So we'll get one out this week before Christmas. We have some AI training, which is usually part of our programs as well. A lot of resources. Aalok loves his demos. He's churning them out at the moment for voice. If you haven't seen them, go and look on LinkedIn. They are amazing, actually, I have to say. I mean, even, I get to see these things before they go out, but the response you get and the ROI has been created on some of these things.
Like a 4-minute or 6-minute detailed
6-minute
phone call. They're having,
it's the humans that I can't understand half the time, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
So that's what we do, and we'll be doing more of that next year. So speaking of next year, Aalok, let's move on to our 2025 AI predictions. So let's start with me. So we've touched on this before in the last podcast as well. It's hard to say when you look back in 20 years, when this really, really took off. But we have seen that 2020, 2, 3, people started hearing about it. It was fun. It was interesting. It was a little bit scary. 2024, the kind of technology is really kind of, it's got to the point now where it's really usable. It's dependable as well. And you can actually use it in business, and it's be quite reliably. And 2025, I think, is when you're going to start seeing the real adoption curve take off. If you know about innovation curves, where usually, is it Adnam's law? I can't remember the name of it, where it takes longer for technology to be adopted. Once it is, it's adopted a lot faster and has a much bigger impact than you thought it was going to be. I think that's going to be 2025 is going to be the beginning of that takeoff. Who knows how steep the curve will be, but this is where we're going to move from pilots to production.
No, I agree with you.
Right, I'll let you take the next one.
Okay. The next one is going to be the rise of the AI agent and agentic workflows, basically, right? So this is all the point of like AI as a team member. An AI person, an AI agent joining your business. This is going to be it, because like if you think in the past, it was like, okay, we'll work with a contractor who's based somewhere else, maybe in the Asia or maybe even based remotely, basically, right? That happened over a period of time. Then it was like, okay, hybrid working, I want to work remotely, so my team member is going to happen over time. I think this is now the new hybrid workforce where it's human and AI. And next year there will be, my prediction will be, there will be more and more surprising businesses, because they're just businesses you wouldn't have thought of that have AI team members. And I think if you don't have an AI team member and you're hiring a person, I think you got to think about some of those ones as well, basically. So
yeah, I agree on that. So AI agents they've come of age now. So you're going to see not just individual agents, But you're going to start to see, sometimes what you will hear is, if you listen to our podcast and follow the kind of AI news, or you're interested in it, and you sort of start searching around for it, you hear lots of noise about people deploying agents that will do jobs. They're overselling. Okay, that's why we do managed agents. So you go to a recruitment company to help recruit, people. You go to an IT services firm to help you with IT. We're the company you go to help you deploy, understand, and manage AI. It moves very, very quickly. So that's exciting. Right, next one is, I think that what you're going to see in 2025, you'll start to see news maybe creeping in, or maybe there'll be some big news, who knows, where AI is having a measurable, systemic, and permanent impact on certain roles or even sectors. And the one I don't sort of choose to beat it up all the time, but it's a good example, because what we do in terms of voice are call centers. So there's, and this is something that's quite, implement AI. We focus on deploying AI because it's inevitable and it's good for business, essentially. So it's important that we do that, but they will have impact on certain roles. So call center, an obvious one, about 800,000 to 1 million people employed. So you need to think about what happens to those roles and how they need to be sort of reskilled, because that is coming. So I think in 2025, you might start to see that sectors, roles, jobs, that actually they are clearly going away. There's no ifs or buts.
I agree with that. You already saw this in some slightly different sectors. Like, for example, with coding, there was some websites like Stack Overflow where people were always going to get the answers for questions and stuff like that. And then once AI came out, they saw the AI effect where the volume of traffic dropped and stuff like this. We saw this when Google took over, and before the number of classified adverts in local newspapers and stuff like that was rising and then keeping steady, and then that drove off a cliff, and Google took everything basically.
You've seen a few translation, haven't you, and ed tech companies as well.
Exactly. So in the same way, this is going to happen basically. The labor is going to shift from human to digital, basically, with AI. So I totally see that, and especially the fastest workflows that happen in those ways.
All right, next one's you.
So I think we'll start to notice the emergence of what we call sector leaders and best practices. So we started off talking about pilots and initial workflows and stuff like this, but you'll start to see more and more businesses in different sectors, like, I don't know, veterinary, accounting, management, consulting, professional services, financial, whatever, where they start to see certain models have started to emerge where basically, they've got a pod of agents doing this, humans doing this. And as those kind of start to gain more momentum, there'll be a lot more accessible examples for people to be able to model and go there. So I think we will start to see sector leaders and best practices emerge next year.
And that's when the seesaw tips, isn't it? When you can see someone in your sector doing this, and maybe they're keeping it quiet, but you hear about the impact of it, the seesaw tips, because what people like to see are other people doing it, which can be quite frustrating when you're first into a sector. And that's why we have case studies and testimonials and do pilots. I think you're absolutely right. So next one for me is that, following on from what we said previously, is that AI voice adoption and the analysis of voice as well is going to be massive. I think it's going to completely change. Maybe not in 2025, you'll start to see it, but you will start to see the change in terms of the voice brings about, which is the change to call centers, to support functions, to sales, to prospecting, interviews, reactivations. Voice is super, super powerful, because to get humans to do it, it's expensive. So AI is cheaper, it's better, it's faster. If you regulate it, it's probably safer as well. So there's a huge massive ROI on using AI to do voice in all forms.
And ChatGPT, for example, yesterday they announced 1-800-ChatGPT, isn't it, right? Where there's a free phone number you can call in the States and talk to ChatGPT directly. So they're making it so that more and more people get used to talking to AI, basically, right?
It's like your permanent phone a friend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's totally, I agree with you. The next one is a shift towards data and systems awareness. Let me explain this. So most businesses are quite manual. They might have some digital processes, but they're actually just done on a computer, but they're pretty manual, basically, right? I think what people are going to start to see this year is that this digital transformation that they thought they'll always do at some point, now it's going to get brought forward, because they understand that in order to actually get the benefit from AI agents, you need to have lots of things connected and do different things in that way to benefit from it. The companies that we work with, we help them with that, and we even put some different things in place with some of those different elements. But the thing is, the urgency of understanding, okay, we need to actually understand, where is our data, how can we access it? No, I don't want everything locked up in this software, I'd like to access it in this way. We had one client, it's quite funny actually, their software company won't give them their access to their database, right now. So we're actually in a conversation about that, even though it's still hosted on their own computer in their own office. They won't give access.
You know, my view on that. My view is, if you've got a service provider, software provider, a SaaS provider, they won't give you access to your data, or if they've been telling you they're going to give you an API for the last 2 years, seriously, on Monday or the 1st of January, whatever day that is, swap it out.
Yeah, it's not as easy because some of them are quite entrenched. But
I know, but you've got to bite the bullet. That's what I'm saying. At some point.
But I'm just saying that, like, so, but they're not happy about it, and they're finding a way to kind of solve it. But I think that this data awareness and your systems awareness is going to be like front and center for the forward thinking companies, because they understand this is what's going to help them accelerate ahead of everyone else, basically.
You're having access to your data, whether it's structured data, unstructured data, like conversational data, for transcripts, for example. Having access to your data is absolutely key, because that's where you can create value. Hello, you use your phrase, is it data, return on data?
Return on data, yeah. Like the whole point is that you want, how else are you going to win? Like, you look at the 100-meter sprint, for example, it's not won by like 3 meters, is it? It's always won by fractions of a whatever, basically, isn't it? So in the same way, purchasing decisions by customers, it might be close, but at the end of the day, if consistently customers are choosing company A over company B, even though it was close each time, that person won 10 times and you won 0 times, basically, right? So the point is, but if they're able to just nudge ahead because they can just message slightly better and follow up slightly quicker and
be more personal, yeah.
Exactly. All those things, basically, that's what your return on data is, because you're capturing it and it compounds. And then the more you know me, the more you explain, and the more I like it, you just go for more and more, basically. So that's where it comes down to.
But you do the next one as well. We touched
The
on
next
the
one
last pod.
So computer use will become more usable, and then changing the, well, yeah. So computer use will become more usable and changing the whole SaaS model of different things in the per user SaaS model. Basically, what we're talking about here is computer use is a function from Claude, where it can take a screenshot of your computer. It can then move the mouse, click something, do whatever. Now, doing this kind of really clunky process, it can actually automate different stages. It's in concept phase at this point in time, but next year it's going to become more powerful. It'll gain access to different applications on your computer. It'll be able to like search your hard disk. It'll be able to like open up different documents for you and do different things, and even book trips for you on your behalf. So the power will be unlocked. And at that point, those that were like waiting, it'll just be like almost too late, because how do you even start when you're that far behind, if that makes sense, basically?
I got quite excited about computer use, but it's probably a bit too overexcited because it is quite clunky. But the point here is, Alex saying, is that imagine what a human does, okay? They sit at a computer typically, they look at a screen, they take in data, they have intelligence, they react to it, they tap on a keyboard and they move a mouse, and the software does something, and then they respond to it. So computer use means that the AI can type. It can type at 5,000 words a minute, right? But now it can move a mouse. Now it can open applications and respond to them in real time. So when that becomes less clunky, that's going to be a game changer. You don't need a screen anymore, because eventually you're going to talk to technology. If you can talk to technology and it can move a mouse or operate software, or actually
know what it's doing.
Or actually, no, the OS is now designed to interact with large language models, so you don't even need a mouse and that kind of nonsense. The world's moved on.
You just want to see what's going on, isn't it? Right? Like, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So you might want to see it as a comfort blanket screen, but the point is that what that means is that AI can operate software. So your SaaS per seat model, where you're getting paid for humans to move stuff, goes away, because one AI or two AIs can operate all of your SaaS. So that changes. I don't know how that's going to work, what's going to happen, what's going to change.
Yeah, like if you just look about the computer use thing, basically, you're shifting, as using your example, you're shifting from musician to conductor. Like, basically, like, you're not the one playing the instruments. You're now taking a step back. The AI is playing the instruments, but you're conducting to make sure that everything works in the way you want to. So that's going to be huge.
Yeah, but the AI can also be a conductor, can also play every single instrument in the orchestra. So eventually it collapses into one, doesn't it?
It's basically Prince.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Right, last one is, this is quite an interesting one. I don't know what you think about this. I kind of added it quite late in the day. Is anything to anything models. So now you talk about text to video, image to video, text to image, text to audio, whatever it might be, text to a song. Eventually it'll be, here's some content or an idea or a sketch drawing or a video or an image or some text. Have a look at that. And on the output, that's the input. And the output, I want whatever I want. It can be a poem, a song, a video, an image, whatever you put into it. Exactly, a 3D model. Don't get me started on that. I just bought a 3D printer. We'll talk about that in the next pod. I mean, just on that, because now you mentioned it, because I've done it now. I said I want to do the doodle to an image, to a 3D, to a model, to printing it. I've actually done it. So now I can conjure anything I can think of into 3D or usually flat, convert that into 3D. That bit's still a bit woolly, but it's getting there. And then I can just print it and it's conjured into existence, into real life, into a physical object. It's bonkers. So I think anything to anything models, which are we're kind of getting there, they're coming, will be insane.
This would be like with the live camera use from ChatGPT, isn't it? Like where you can actually turn on the camera. Gemini has it as well, where you can talk, and it also has access to your full video feed, full audio feed, and it can discuss anything with you. Even if you're drawing on a chalkboard and annotating, it understands everything that's going on at the same time. So I think that's the whole thing. This also changes things. Because imagine you using the anything to anything model where you have it as your companion during a medical consultation, where it's like, okay, sitting there with you when you're having a doctor's consultation, it's saying, okay, was there anything that was missed?
I don't know where you're going with this, but go on.
No, I'm just,
Vision, yeah.
No, I'm just saying that, like, it can then be your companion, like, to almost like ask.
Have a look at this. What's that?
It could be, or it could also be like, during the consultation, like, I got this X-ray. What do you see from this? Or is there anything else I should ask about this? Basically, isn't it right? You've got an expert on hand at any time. So I think this anything to anything.
Well, an expert that can see, an expert can understand text,
an
expert can read, look, watch a video. It's going to be. So I think you'll see them. You'll see more than 2025. I think you'll see a massive adoption. I think
there's going to be a break of some stuff as well. I was reading about this thing where they said that like some of these human processes which were not designed for AI are going to break. They said that like in the States, like what if an AI lawyer sent you 20 court cases in one day, or so like sued you 20 times or whatever? Like
I saw that. My response was, well, I'd spin up 20 defense lawyers.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, so we're going to start to see some human systems break down. And I saw another situation where about 20 scientific articles were published using AI, and they were showing how you can just mass produce things. So I think this anything to anything will create some breakages in the system, some places. You understand?
Interesting. Right, that's it. That's our 8 predictions. Come back this time next year, and we'll tell you how we did. Hopefully, between now and then, there'll be 50-ish more of these podcasts. So again, look out for the AI Insider this week, which we'll talk about these predictions, I guess, and what we think about 2025 and why, if you haven't really done anything in AI or thought about it, or brought your team along and demoed it, or they've seen it or thought about how do you implement this in your business to create an AI assisted organization, you need to start doing it in 2025. And if you want to come and talk to us, log into the website, go to our resources center. We've got white papers, we've got lots of demos. We keep churning out demos almost every week now. Please give this pod a rating if you can on Apple or wherever you watch or listen to podcasts, and subscribe and keep following our content mostly on LinkedIn, because I think you can learn quite a lot from us along the way. And that's it really for 2024. I think 2025 is going to be huge. And we're looking forward to it, actually. It's been a long year, and thank you for following this podcast and listening to us. Hope we've added some value, and hope we had a huge amount more in next year. Anything else to add, Aalok?
No. See you in 2025.
We'll see you then. This is the AI Assisted Organization podcast. We'll see you in 2025. Have a great Christmas. If you don't celebrate Christmas, enjoy the holidays. See you soon.
See you.